Now to a fact about how Iran is actually pulling in big money from the U.S. while all those sanctions are still in place. And who knows what it's doing with all that cash. Here's Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen.
Brett, good evening. This is an extraordinary tale involving these nuclear discussions where one of the key conditions set at the very outset ensured that this money would flow into the coffers of the regime. Forget the sanctions that will be lifted if and when Iran, the U.S., and 5 other world powers can finalize a nuclear deal. For almost a year and a half, the Islamic regime has been receiving roughly $700 million a month in assets unfrozen by the U.S. and its negotiating partners. All that moolah, now in the hands of the mullahs, has so far added up to about $10 billion. 1 year ago, the State Department vowed not to let these funds be put to ill use.
Theoretically, this money could be used to buy rockets to send to.
If we found out that the Iranians were using any money of theirs for sanctionable activities, it would be a huge problem. I can guarantee that.
But certifying that the less than fully transparent regime has not misused the unfrozen funds is difficult at best. And in the U.S. intelligence community's annual assessment of worldwide threats, the Director of National Intelligence recently certified that as of February 13th, Iran was still developing increasingly sophisticated missiles and provided robust military support to Damascus, itself a state sponsor of terrorism, including arms, advisors, funding, and direct combat support, activities posing an ongoing threat to U.S. national interests.
Iran's continuing nefarious activities in the region, including financing and supporting terrorism, training terrorists, trying to subvert the regional order, will be facilitated by greater access to these financial resources that Iran could not get to in the past.
With greater certainty, the State Department says the unfrozen assets are separate from long-standing legal claims being pressed in federal courts against the regime by hundreds of American families victimized by terrorist acts either directly carried out or aided by Iran, including the 1979 hostage crisis and Hezbollah's deadly bombing 4 years later of a U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut.
We've always said that every issue is separate from the nuclear issue, that we don't tie the nuclear issue to resolution of any other issue with Iran because, let's say you can't get a nuclear agreement, we wouldn't want to not be able to resolve the other issues.
ForeignPolicy.com calculates that if Iran recoups all its frozen assets and resumes normal oil sales, it will reap $420 billion over the next 15 years, all in exchange, Brett, for maintaining a frozen but not dismantled